Amy Euler. Hi, Amy. Guest of Monty Clausen, Joni Clausen. Guest of Faye Morse. Say hello to Eric Smith. Eric. And guest of Charlotte Harris, Cal and Nancy Cleveland. Cal and Nancy. Yeah? Oh wait, I have one more thing. These sunglasses were found. Do they belong to anybody here? I'm gonna wear them. They become mine.
Chris, thank you. We've got a really fun program today. Please turn your attention to the screen. What happened to my? Did somebody turn this off?
It's just low.
Low, low.
That's my
Is it on?
No.
It's on. I guess I just need to talk louder. So please turn your attention to the screen. I didn't do it. I didn't touch anything. Chris did it. Our Sergeant Arms did that. Did you guys see that? Okay, let's start this again. Switcher team, would you mind rolling the video on our keynote speaker introduction, please?
White Stallion Ranch was originally built by David Young in the early 1900s as a working cattle ranch. And in 1939, Herbert and Vine Bruning purchased the ranch to raise cattle, chickens, and turkeys. In 1945, Max Zimmerman from Chicago bought the ranch and moved west to become the owner of one of the 100 guest ranches operating in the Tucson area. In 1949, Mary Varner purchased the property, and in 1959 sold it to Brew at Margetown, who renamed it White Stallion Ranch. They wanted to name it Black Stallion Ranch, but quickly realized that the BS Ranch brand couldn't fit from the marketing standpoint. In 1965, Alan and Cynthia True bought the ranch and moved down from Colorado to make it their home. By this time, the number of guest ranches in the area had dwindled down to about 30, most casualties of urban sprawl. So with an eye toward the future, the True family began purchasing adjacent land, ultimately increasing the ranch to 3,000 acres. While maintaining many traditions of the Old West, Russell and Michael have added tennis courts, a movie theater, a new pool and spa area, and a fitness center to their traditional Western offerings. They have also established some of the largest privately owned herds of horses and cattle in Arizona. And in addition to being a guest ranch, the White Stallion has been the setting for many famous Western movies, too numerous to mention here. So let's have a rowdy Old West welcome for Russell True, here to tell us about the ranch's history and how the guest ranch industry has changed. As a working cattle ranch, and in 1939...
That was a message. The video's better than me. That was really good. So I'm standing here because of a blizzard in Colorado in late spring 1965. That's probably not a dissimilar story from some other people in Tucson, but my father, this is a true story, he came home. He had been born in Wyoming, raised in Montana. My mother was a lifetime Denverite, and they are living there in Denver, and in 1965, late spring, he comes home to this blizzard. He traveled in his business, and he said, that's it, I'm done, I can't take it anymore. And literally that night, back in 65, airline tickets were like train tickets, you just went and got on one, right? So he goes to Stapleton Airport at that time, flies to Tucson and begins his journey looking for a new life. The business they were in Denver doesn't exist in Arizona. So they had to reinvent themselves, and he starts looking, and apartments, trade schools, restaurants, 24 dude ranches in Tucson at the time. We were the dude ranch capital of the world, by the way. There were 127 dude ranches in the Tucson area at one time. Arizona is sort of forgotten as a dude ranch state, 338. So there's 24 in Tucson, 4 are for sale. We're sitting right now in one of those 4 that were for sale. He could have bought this. White Stallion, Wild Horse, and Lazy K. So looks at them all, looks at all these other less interesting things that he was probably more qualified to operate, and decides that he wants to do this. So goes home and gets my mother and myself, and we stay for 1 week as guests at White Stallion Ranch. At the end of the week, my mother, who was the pragmatic one of the two, said, "Alan, this is the worst idea you've ever had. The fact that you were a wrangler in Glacier Park for 3 months when you were 12, that isn't going to qualify you as a cowboy. The fact you were a maid for 3 months in Glacier Park when you were 13, apparently the wrangling didn't work out, so does not make you a hotel manager, so it's just silly. We're not prepared for this." So my dad goes back through this journey he'd been on of probably successful but less interesting businesses. And finally, my mother, as she quoted herself for the rest of her life, said, "Okay, Alan, if we can look at those mountains to the south every morning when I wake up, I will allow you to throw our lives away." So my dad, we laughed. He didn't, because he knew she meant it. She had no sense of humor whatsoever. And so he built her house with floor-to-ceiling glass all across the entire south wall, the house that I'm lucky enough to get to live in. So there's no house there in 1965, so they inked the deal in September 65. My dad opens the ranch in October of 65. My mother's pregnant with my brother, living in the house in Denver, hoping to sell it and move down to the new home at the new ranch in the adventure she really didn't want. And so finally my brother's born, and we come down and we fly down, and all our stuff's in the moving truck. So we move into this empty, echo-filled home that has 3 suitcases, 3 cots and a crib. Everything else is coming in the moving truck in our very first morning. So this is a true story, and it shows that, you know, all I've ever done my whole life is dude ranching. And so at 6 years old, I had an opportunity to learn a valuable lesson and didn't. So our very first morning, as this great adventure is about to unfold, as a family in dude ranching in Tucson, Arizona, we are awakened at 7 a.m. by the maintenance man, who is yelling, Mr. True, come out here, come out here." And so my dad slides open. He's got his little jammies on, slides open the sliding glass door. And there's a maintenance man waving a steak knife, and even to a 6-year-old, clearly drunk at 7 in the morning. So he says to my dad, he said, "You know, you've been a good boss in these 3 weeks. I just need to let you know I'm going up to the kitchen now to kill Louise the cook. And when I'm finished with her, I'm going to kill Lyndon Johnson," who was the president at the time. Now, my dad was a quick-thinking, funny guy who hated Lyndon Johnson, so he, without hesitation, said, "Well, I can't have you hurt Louise, but I'll buy you a ticket to Washington." And he really did say that. And so the guy's kind of confused because he really wasn't looking for a conspirator or anything. So my dad jumps a wall, relieves him of the knife, takes him to the bunkhouse, and drives him to Tucson and relieves him of his job at the ranch. That is truly our very first day as a family in dude ranching. So I didn't learn that. We're looking at the very first dude ranchers. These are some of the Eaton's family. And I tell a story that dude ranching, and by the way, dude ranching was the first destination vacation in the West, and that includes Arizona. This is the Dakota territory, and this is the Custer Trail Ranch, named for the fact that the Custer group went through this ranch on the way to the Bighorn. So they came, I think they were there not so long after the Battle of the Little Bighorn. So Howard Eaton, the guy on the right, became very famous in dude ranching. He comes out from Pittsburgh and starts a cattle and horse ranch. He loves the West, and this is the condensed version of the story. He loves the West, and he starts writing letters to Pittsburgh friends and family and other eastern areas. And I guess it was a slow news day, and one of his letters ended up published in a New York paper. And Teddy Roosevelt read that paper, read that letter, and heard about the West, and he traveled out to this area, which is now Medora area of the Dakota Territory, where he bought the Maltese Cross Ranch eventually, which was the neighbor of the Custer Trail Range. So I say that Teddy Roosevelt and dude ranching changed each other. He came out west because of the original dude ranchers, and he said for the rest of his life, the West shaped the rest of his life, Teddy Roosevelt. He created dude ranching accidentally because he had this ranch, the Maltese Cross, next to the Custer Trail, and once, his wife and daughter died the same day, Teddy Roosevelt's, unrelated causes, but it just devastated him. So he was out west, and once he sort of regained his footing, he started traveling as Teddy Roosevelt did. And a lot of his friends and family ended up sort of migrating over to the Custer Trail because there was more stuff going on. And these are the elite of America. This isn't middle-class travel. You don't ride the trains and the stages and the horses to get out to these remote places. So these are folks with the time, money, and resources and the mindset to do it. So they asked the Eatons, we'd like to pay you for this experience. And they said, oh no, that's against the Western ethic. And ultimately, Bert Rumsey talked them into it. 1892, the first dude rancher guest. Bert Rumsey signed the very first guest book and started paying $10 a week to stay at the Custer Trail Ranch. Custer Trail Ranch was sold, and the Eaton family moved to Wolf, Wyoming, and their ranch is now called the Eaton's Ranch. And I just spent 3 days with the Eaton's family, 3rd and 4th generation and 5th generation, at our dude ranch convention. They still own the ranch just outside Wolf, and they are the original dude ranch. First dude ranch in Arizona, oddly called the Garden of Allah. And this is the only photo, I did a book on Arizona dude ranch history. This is the only photo I could find on the Garden of Allah. And it was known for its palm trees. It's now the Hassayampa River Preserve just outside Wickenburg, and it started about 1910. And some of the buildings are still there. That's the oldest dude ranch that we know exists in Arizona, and I'm going to breeze through these. This is a ranch, I bet you everybody, some of you didn't know White Stallion, but you probably all knew this ranch. A little different era. This is Tanque Verde Ranch on the far east side at the dead end of Speedway. The Koch family owns that ranch. It's the 3rd family that has owned that ranch. Emilio Carrillo homesteaded it in 1868. Jim Converse bought it in the 20s, started the dude ranch, renamed it Tanque Verde. Koch family bought it in 1948. And that's a little different purpose for the porches at Tanque Verde. They're hanging some beef sides. Guest rooms are behind the beef sides. It'd be a little startling if you didn't know. Another great property in Tucson, one of my favorites, is Hacienda del Sol. It was a great dude ranch. It was, prior to that, a girls' school, and this was the uniform. They were all given a horse, and that taking care of the horse and riding was a big part of it. Greenfield School, where my kids went, that was the boys' school, and they used to ride over to Hacienda del Sol and dance with the girls. And this is another great picture at Hacienda del Sol. This is W Ranch, which I suspect you got to be a pretty ingrained Tucsonan to know that that's now Canyon Ranch. Looks a little different. Flying V, which is where La Ventana and Flying V still exist. They used to do something, I love this story, mainly because we don't do it. But they used to have the Wranglers be the bandits and the guests be the posse, and they'd send them out into the Catalinas to find each other. I can't imagine the carnage. I love this photo, it's in my book. It's somewhere very close to where we are right now. This is Westward Look. Pretty nice trained horse, and got the kid sitting on the grass under a horse rear nut. This is Saddle and Surrey Ranch that is now Cottonwood of Tucson. 1985, we had 3 ranches shift from taking guests to helping people with dependency problems. And this is one of them. This is Wild Horse Ranch. It's a wedding venue. They call it Oasis at Wild Horse. And this was probably, when we came in '65, Howard and Grace Miller owned and ran this place. It was probably the preeminent ranch in Tucson, Arizona. Followed closely by the Koch family's Desert Willow. This is, this makes me sad. I don't even like to look at this photo. This is Lazy K-Bar Ranch. It had a very similar history to White Stallion. It was just over the mountain. If you walked 2 miles over a mountain pass, you could walk to it, maybe 2.5 miles. And it's got a bunch of Pulte homes on it now. And I'm not anti-growth. I just, you know, this was a 1920s, 30s ranch, and I miss it. This is, Desert Willow is also gone. It was a rehab place for a while, and owned by the Koch family. It was their #1 ranch, and as it just got so encroached on, they shifted their resources and their emphasis to Tanque Verde, which is a world-class ranch today, but it's kind of a great little old map. And this is a shot of Desert Willow, and it's under homes and roads now. So I don't like seeing these ranches disappear, and it's the one thing I know how to do. And so we put together a little group, and beside White Stallion, we operate in 4 other ranches, 3 in Arizona. All of those 4 were either reopened after being closed or taken out of foreclosure, somebody else's foreclosure. This is K.O. Bar, this is outside Wickenburg. Val Kilmer grew up here, and it is a 1918 start, 1926 it began taking guests. And this is just, I like this photo, K.O. Bar. This is another ranch that, this is our cattle ranch of our little group. This is Tombstone Monument Ranch. These are the buildings that were there. This is an 1880s built. It was a cattle ranch. Geronimo's still running around, and that was a bad place to be with Geronimo running around because it was his neighborhood. If you go into the ranch now, the modern saloon, you go down and there's a root cellar and an escape tunnel that they have in case the Apaches came. So it's a full-scale dude ranch now. This is the one we took out of foreclosure. And the most historic, I did this book on Arizona dude ranching. I got asked to do it, and I was afraid no one else would, so I did it. And in the book, I said the most historic ranch in Arizona is Rancho de los. I never imagined that someday we'd own it. And this is a very old photo. Sassabee, where the ranch is located, was the biggest crossing point for cattle in Arizona at the time, around the turn of the century. This ranch has the oldest continually used building of European origin in the state. It's 300 years old. The newest guest accommodation at the ranch is 96 years old. Some are about 180 years old, literally. The Marshall Plan that rebuilt Europe was there. 3 presidents, Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, and LBJ all stayed there. And this is just the sense of the Sonoran architecture and courtyards that exist there today. This is Mrs. Johnson, Lady Bird Johnson, the New York Times theater critic and an unknown woman. And that is Mr. Johnson, President Johnson, on a big drafty looking horse. And we were talking about his hat, Rob and I. That's not really the Johnson hat I'm used to, but my dad wouldn't have been very pleased anyway. And this is a postcard that must have sold like crazy, because you can go on eBay any day of any week and there'll be one of these for sale. And this is a shot across the 1889. It was built between 1835 and 1889 hacienda. They sat on that porch and watched the Revolucionarios fight with the Federales, and when the battle was over, brought 4 Federales that had been killed and buried them in the cemetery and ministered in the 300-year-old building to the injured Revolucionarios. And this is the great intro. This is our ranch, White Stallion Ranch, where I live, and this is shot in the 40s. And that building behind's still there, and the windmill also. High Chaparral was shot at the ranch from 68 to 72, if you remember that Western that was based on real life Pete Kitchen down on the border. And this was the press party that was held at White Stallion in 1968 for the opening of the show, and my parents' backs are right there at the foreground. And this is a 1940s aerial view of White Stallion. It was both more overgrazed, and much less of a facility, but this is the beginning of the dune range. So this was shot sometime after 45. And that's our desert site out there, and those are the mountains that convinced my mother to ruin her life. And you had this photo. So our parents, my brother and I, and I'm the older one, so. I'm open to questions, if there is any.
And I have a microphone for questions.
Yes, sir.
Let me give it to you.
Oh, sorry. Wherever you go, and I'll answer. You take it. Sorry.
So, good presentation. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing it with us. I grew up on a guest ranch here, and our big problem was the lack of air conditioning those days. We were only open from about Thanksgiving to May 1st. What did you do the rest of the year?
Well, I mean, that's where'd you grow up?
Rancho Del Rio, which became
Which
is
is
town.
Oh, and I heard your factory. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So we were October 1st through April 30th, and no air conditioning. And that, people didn't even blink at that in the 60s and 70s. They began to get worried about it in the 80s, and we began to push our season out, so we ended up retrofitting everything as air conditioned now. But your season was the traditional, and still a lot of ranches run that, either October or November start and finish up end of April. You said end of April, early May?
It was closed May 1st, but
Yeah.
what did you do the rest of the year?
What did we do the rest of the year? Well, our parents bought the least well-known, most run-down of the 4 ranches for sale, so there was a lot to do. The staff went poof, and it was mom, dad, and
That's right.
2 really cheap laborers. So we fed horses, and the wrangler for years he went up to Wisconsin and rodeoed, because he could beat them more easily in Wisconsin, and we went to work. And then and our season expanded, and our international market became so important to us, and summer's so big in that regard. But still a lot of ranches close in the summer, and it makes a lot of sense. But particularly with this pandemic thing, a lot of staycations now. So,
Vicki has a question.
yes.
Hi, thanks for being here.
Hi.
So you showed a picture of a ranch that you said was built in 1835 to 18-something?
Yes, Rancho de la Osa.
Is it still standing, the building?
Yes.
Also, you mentioned, and where is it? And you mentioned that you have a book with pictures in it, maybe?
Yes.
Where do you-
So, yes, the book, I brought it in case someone asked me a question, because I found that somebody asked me a question yesterday, and I had to go get my book to answer the question, because it's become my own reference point, which says something. So Rancho de la Osa is on the border near Sassafee, which is really in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. It is on the border with Mexico. You can see the wall. There was a wall that Bush built. Trump took it down and built a bigger one. And so we do have a wall there, but our ranch adjoins Mexico. All those buildings still stand. The 300-year-old building is gone from a Jesuit-built mission outpost and trading center to our cantina, which is maybe inappropriate. But the whole hacienda is there, and it's classic Sonoran architecture. No hallways, just room. And that's where people check in, that's where they eat dinner and breakfast and lunch.
Rob has a
It's all
question
there.
over here.
Yes.
Yeah, Russell, thanks for the presentation. It's amazing. Having been to Rancho de la Osa a couple of times, and the first time in the early 90s, when the head wrangler lived in Sonora,
Right.
and went and opened a gate and came to work.
Right.
How is the wall? And do you still do, 2 questions? Do you still do the honor system at the cantina? Awesome. And number 2, how has the wall impacted your tourism down there?
So
Positively or negatively?
So when Trump was elected and the wall became a topic, so I'm going to back up. Before that, when Bush built the wall, it was great for the ranch. That was prior to our time. It shoved the traffic to either side because it was a 14-mile wall and there was 2 ends and it was a barbed wire fence that a 4-year-old could crawl through. So it was great for the ranch. When Trump was elected and the wall became a topic, either good or bad, regardless of your perspective, it became a real destination. Everybody wanted to go see the wall and have a picture and walk around it. And, you know, break the law and step into Mexico, and step back, and, you know, so. Then he takes it down, builds a bigger one. They could scale it, by the way. There were measurements. The Bush wall, they could scale in under 30 seconds. There's video of it if you. So the bigger wall is more challenging. With the new administration, traffic is so much up in general, and Sasabee's a hotbed. We're starting to see traffic again where we were not seeing any. But it has not deterred our business. Dude ranching is flourishing because people want to get outside and out of the way. Uncrowded.
Russ, we have time for one more question. Margaret has it.
It's actually not a question, but you can probably guess I did not grow up on a dude ranch, unlike some of us here. But when I first got to Arizona in 1990, almost my first experience of the West was at the White Stallion. And so I have a lot of warmth and emotion towards that existence. I love it very much. That and rattlesnakes, you know. I live here now.
Yeah. Well,
thank you for what you do.
Well, my wife's English and so's my daughter-in-law.
From where?
Stroud area. Cotswolds, Lower Cotswolds.
Okay, lovely area.
Gloucestershire. All right. Thank you very much.
I know you're wondering what we're going to do for a book to put in our Make Way for Books library as we start to work on literacy issues with kids. And today we have Mr. Noisy at the Dude Ranch. There you go. That'll go in a library. So Russell, thank you for that. By the way, just a little shout out. If you've not gone out to White Stallion Ranch, Janine and I have gone out a couple times. It is really, really cool. I mean, if you've not been out there, it is fun. You should do that. So this is kind of interesting. This is like the first time in forever that we do not have any birthday introductions, but we do have an introduction. I wouldn't say new member and blue badge. What I would say is John McCaleb is well known, I think, to most of us here in the club. When I was asked to be president, I think one of my first calls was to John, and I let John know that I expect him to come back to Rotary. I actually had the opportunity to John's program chair back when he was president. So here's a little couple things about John. So he originally joined our club in April of '91. He stepped down in December of '16, and then he rejoined in June of '21, right before I stepped in. Thank you, John. He's got a wonderful wife, Judy, Christopher, Nick, Emily, his kids. Again, he was the president back in 2002 and '03. And I had a great time being this program chair. I think we just got together on the same page and really had a lot of fun. So without any further ado, I want to ask John to come up and say a couple of words. Oh, and one last thing, John. We saved your badge. So I'm giving you back your badge.
Thanks for the badge, Irv. Nobody ever had a better program chair, and actually nobody ever had better friends, better time. I look around and I see people that were absolutely key to my year as president of this club, and I'm really happy to be back. I had he described a little hiatus as I developed my rock and roll skills. And now that I can go up and it's like sleepwalking, I'm back in Rotary where you get to be more active. So anyway, happy to be back. happy to be a part of this wonderful club again and back with all my friends. Thanks.
So another little story about John. So John and I get our haircut at the same place. It's with our buddy Frank over at Gadabouts. And as I started to gray, I told Frank that I was really bothered wearing a black apron. Could I please have a white one? And then I got a lecture on why they don't use white ones, because I guess when you dye your hair, you can ruin these things. And I said, I'm not dyeing my hair. So I actually got my own white smock that I get to wear. And I am told that my friend, Mr. McCaleb, wears it as well. So that way you can't really see all the gray hair that's falling on, although I think we actually have white hair, John. I'm not really sure what that's about. So we've got a history moment, but I want to first apologize to the history committee. Last week we got goofy with all the stuff with JTED. The week before that, I can't recall what happened, but we just ran out of time. I want to say thank you for you guys' patience. And Bob Schaff is going to come up and do a history moment. He joined our club in April of '92. Classification Consulting, Marketing, Customers for Life Consulting is his company. He's a U of A grad, and he was our club president in 2003 and 4. And he's going to be doing a little presentation showcasing somebody he was sitting next to.
Thank you. It's been fun to do these history moments for past presidents. And if I had known that John McCaleb was going to be honored today as a returning Rotarian, we could have shown his past president video. He had one of the best ever, but we have one today that is equal, if not really better than John. So that is for Charlotte Ann Cleveland Harris. Today we honor her as our 88th president in 2008 and 9. Charlotte Harris is a very special person. Special not only to Rotary, but also to me. Let me give you a couple of examples. Charlotte was a classmate of mine and Scott Vaughn's in 1961 at U of A. As Director of Development at South Point, which role she held for 15 years, she was instrumental in getting my son John a scholarship to South Point High School. As membership chair during my year as president in 2003, she took on that job with vigor and recruited 39 new members during that year, which is an outstanding record in the history of our club, and that was Charlotte Harris. And then recently, she supported my wife through her successful battle with breast cancer because they had that in common, and I will always be grateful for that. But she's special also to our Rotary Club. She joined our Rotary Club in November of 2000 and exemplifies the Rotary spirit of service above self. She has a Paul Harris Fellow +8. She has been very involved in the Ride to End Polio to honor her late husband, Mike Harris. And she's always willing to help in so many ways. As an example, a task she's taken on that you've all seen is every week she gets up and does a lot of research to present a history moment for our club. And that kind of is something special about our club. Charlotte Harris is a very special person. She always lends her ear, her heart, her hands to almost any task. And she's been a tremendous asset to our club for the past 21 years. So let's see what Charlotte Harris has to say about her year as our club president in 2008. Roll that video.
It was my privilege and honor to serve as the 88th president of the Rotary Club of Tucson. The theme that year for Rotary International was Make Dreams Real. And the logo was a picture of an adult cradling a child. And I thought how appropriate, because I was a woman and I was actually the second woman president of the club. 10 years previous to that, Katie Dusenberry had been the president. As I started out the year, there were some goals that I set up that I felt were important. The first one was that we were such a large club, I thought it was important that we get to know each other. And everybody has a very special story and has been on a special journey, and I thought that it would be a good way for membership satisfaction as well. The second thing is we had our first car show the year before and wanted to see that to continue. It had a great start, and help the community, and we needed to move forward with that. The third thing was I wanted us to support international programs of Rotary, because that basically is a very large part of what we do. And the fourth thing was that I wanted to review and assess the procedures and documents of the Rotary Club of Tucson. And I really felt at the end of the year that we had done a pretty good job of doing that. For getting to know each other, previous to the year, Paul Harris Fellows were where people would be lined up and a pin would be handed to them and their name would be read and what pin level they had received. And I thought it would be a good way for us to have a brief bio and a quote from each of those individuals to learn more about them. And actually during my year, we did 71 Paul Harris Fellows, and so those people had an opportunity to be more exposed to the membership, to know about them. Of the most inspirational thing that happened that year, it was when Richard Clark, who was retired from the New York Metropolitan Opera, would sing the Star Spangled Banner. And standing at the podium, I could look out and see our membership, and the looks on their faces were awesome. They were proud to be an American. His voice just resonated all the emotions that we had about being Americans, and that was very inspiring to me. It was Pat Zumbush to be the treasurer, and he was incredible. He not only became the treasurer of the club, he became the treasurer of the car show. And at the time, we were keeping our books in Clubmate, which was unsupported, and he changed it all over to QuickBooks during his year. I also chose Chuck Sawyer as the Sergeant of Arms, and he put together a team that made sure that the meetings would run well. He had a team that ran the audio-visual, which we hadn't had before, and also someone who ran around with a microphone. I am most proud of working with and observing our members as they take on tasks and create new ideas and get jobs done. They are so passionate about helping others and making our community and our world a better place to live. And for me to observe that and to have their support as well was an incredible moving experience for me. It still was an honor and a privilege to be able to be the club president. And as I've shared with many of you, the friendships that we developed with our fellow members are like a second family. And when I've shared those with people, I always get a definite agreement. And I would just like to take a moment to give a shout out to Bob Schaff. It was his idea to start doing these president's videos. And he's the one that organized what we would say, he did the scheduling, and he's the one that puts together these for us each week. We now have 35 videos of past presidents, some of them who are no longer with us. And this is treasured history for our club. Thanks so much.
Bob, great job. Charlotte, we're very proud of you. Charlotte's one of those people you can just, if you're ever struggling with something with Rotary, and you just want some history or some advice, she's a great person to visit with. And as she knows, I love her a lot. So guess what? We've got a little raffle coming up, and I guess I'm not even going to talk about my tickets, because if I say anything about them, nothing good will happen, so I'm going to ignore my tickets. I'm not going to sell them. They're not available. Chris has already promised me he did not sell me the winning tickets, so I'm probably going to have to even look at them.
Yeah, that's right.
Chris Dodge is going to come up. As you guys know, he has got some money in his pocket. Talk to us.
I got it. So, I have $105 in my pocket for the winner today, but there's good signs. It's 2/2/22 today. We're $7 short of $2,900, so there's another lucky number. And we have a 1 in a 15 chance of drawing the king of clubs. I don't know what the good luck number is in 15, but maybe there is, I don't know. So, Russell, you're gonna draw the king of clubs today. All right, I'm willing it. There it is. It's king of clubs. I'm going to shuffle. Here we go. It's going in. It's in there somewhere. Just draw it, but don't tell anybody what you have. All right, he's drawn the king of clubs. We're willing it. And draw the lucky ticket number. Don't make it marks.
This is what $20 every week gets you. Abuse.
The winning number this week is 857-719. 857-719. You've just won $105. Mark's actually checked. You might want to check. It might be you this time. We got it? Who is it? Oh, yeah! All right, I'm bringing you Monty now.
So you know what Monty's other nickname is?
What's Monty's other name?
Monty, what's your other nickname? Lucky.
Lucky Monty.
I've nicknamed him Lucky because he always won. My first time when I first joined Rotary, any drawing there was, Lucky won it.
You know what? Monty, you are remaining lucky because you're making things lucky for Mark one more week again because it's the 3 of spades. So I'm counting on your $20 again next week. All right, back to you.
Chris, thank you. So a couple of brief quick announcements. First off, the Fly Fishing Fund. So we're going to showcase this week somebody who might seem a little familiar to you, Chuck Sawyer and his son Bennett. And I always love if I see a father-son on a fishing trip. But you can see here's a couple of guys that are having some fun and catching fish. Chuck, thank you for sharing that with us. Really appreciate your donation to the fund. The fund is growing. Dorina, what are we up to now? About $4,500. So that'll all be money that we'll use on our Boys and Girls Club project that we'll be doing probably late March, early April. As you can tell, Rhodey attire. I wore it today in honor of my pal Russell, but don't forget, we've got rodeo coming up, so our next meeting, make sure you come in your Rotary regalia. Vicki Jacobs, I think you've got a little announcement on something going on next week. Here she is.
Yes, next Wednesday, we do not have a meeting, but we have a mixer at Hotel Congress, and they're opening up their Centennial Room, and it's just opened last weekend, so we'll be like the first people that ever get to be in the Centennial Room. Century, sorry. So please sign up. And the best place to park is at the Plaza Depot Garage. And Nicole and I are going to ask for a couple of volunteers so we can have like a greeting line on your way to Hotel Congress, so you know exactly where to go. Could you raise your hands if you're planning on going? Oh, great. So, we need more people to sign up. We need more people to sign up. Angelo, who did the jazz performance a couple of weeks ago, is going to be playing with his trio. Okay? And so we have our own private room with our own private music for the night. Thanks. Bye.
Vicki, thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. And I have to say, I've been in the room. I went to like the private opening of it, and it is gorgeous. It is something to be seen. It will become soon a treasure in Tucson. So you ought to come just to check out the room. It's very cool. Back to you. Wait, blood drive.
Blood drive.
Yeah, that's me. It's February 16th. Can we still sign up out at the registration table after the meeting? Yes, we can. So we can still sign up at the registration table. There is a little video. Can you roll the video?
Good afternoon, Rotarians. We have a national blood crisis. About 3% of the population donates blood. Are you in or are you one of the outliers? Please consider donating blood. And you can do so in our Rotary blood drive, which will be February 16th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. There are plenty of spots open. Please sign up for one of the available spots. And thank you very much.
Again, critical shortage for those of you that have that special blood type O negative, which I have. That's exceptionally short supply. So if you haven't signed up for that, please do so. And also, I was going to say in the sensor room, I was down there a couple of days ago walking and looking at the sensor room with Todd and Richard, and also trying to figure out exactly where we're going to put our time capsule there in the courtyard. So more on that when we're down there next week, but a lot of positive stuff going on. Scott, you've got a blue badge presentation.
I do. Congratulations on your blood type.
Yeah.
As I've learned from many of you, You share my view about the impact on the community and the great successes, one after another of our new member, Diana Medeiros. Her new membership was already presented, but this is time for the blue badge presentation, which I offer you now.
Thank you.
And I just so admire Diana, and I'm so sorry that it took so long to get the blue badge, because she completed those check marks one after another in world record time. Diana Medeiros.
Thank you, and thank you, Scott. You were a great mentor. You can't have a better mentor than Scott. He helped me, he cares, he did above and beyond. And to Mark for inviting me to join, twisting my arm to join. No. And I am proud to be a member, and what I like so much about this group is that you guys are rainmakers. And that's the kind of people I want to be around and work with. I want to say something about Russel, as I'm losing my voice. I've known about the ranch, traveled to all the ranches. I will be going to Montana this summer, spent a lot of time at all of them. He is the king of hospitality. You go to that ranch, and he used to run the corral, and people he never met, he would say, "Oh, Diana, this is your horse." And I'm like, how does he know my name? I mean, it was phenomenal what this man could keep in his head. And just so you know, the level of service at White Stallion Ranch, they were ranked #1 of all resorts in Arizona or further, U.S., for hospitality. And that's not just guest ranches, that's across the board. So if you want an experience, travel to all their ranches. They're all different. I have favorites, but you get a different experience at every one of them. And actually now they've opened it up where you can actually buy a share in the ranches. And I have done that, and then you get to stay for free. Also, I got permission to do my Happy Jackson while I'm up here. We'll just get it done all at once. And for those of you who are here for the presentation on the Tucson Wildlife Center, the only center left in all of southern Arizona, we are coming up on our benefit. It's a fantastic dinner and evening event at La Paloma on March 6th. It's called Born to be Wild. And we have a silent auction with 150 items, and we have 12 items in our live auction, including dinner for 12 in your own home with Llanos. We've got Canyon Ranch. We've got 2 river cruises in Europe, a Medeiros original painting, and it goes on and on. So if you're interested, this event always sells out. This year it's going to be at La Paloma, so we have a couple more seats. I have invitations if you're interested in going. So thank you very much.
By the way, you also need to get a pair of boots like Dinah has. You should check out these boots. So I want to just mention really quickly, Dave Gallagher asked me to touch on this. There's still opportunities to sign up for the beer sales during the Tucson Rodeo. If you're interested in that, there's a link, and we'll put it in the bulletin again, but if you can do that, that'd be great. Bruce Jacobs, I guess you've got a Happy Jackson. You make me nervous with that.
He does. And I'm turning on the timer, Mark.
Okay, good.
I know how he does it.
So as many of you know, I retired actually almost a year ago. I managed First American Title and Title Security here in Tucson. So my wife also had worked for the company. I was there 30 years, she was there 27. Well, the body wasn't cold, and about 60 days later is Long Core Services, which is the Long companies, had hired her away. Their core services is title insurance, mortgage, and and insurance. And so they issued a letter to First American / Title Security in July that they were buying out their ownership interest in Long Title. And on September 6th, they opened up escrow services, which my wife was actually responsible for building that entire department and recruiting the people over there. They rebranded it as Agave Title Agency, and last week she was promoted and named president of Agave Title. So as I told Mark and some of the others in this room when I retired, my goal in life was always to be a kept man, and I finally achieved my goals.
And you did that successfully in 1 minute and 6 seconds.
Sounds like we should charge them another $1.
Yeah, I'm saying.
So I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed the meeting. If you'd like to donate to our scholarship, the cups are outside on the table. If you've not gotten your Rotary pin yet, I mean, oh my God, what are you doing? They're at the back table as well. John, congratulations on rejoining us. You made my day when you said yes. Diana, congratulations on your blue badge. We'll have to compare to see who got done the quickest, because it seems like everybody's just really powering through the STAR program, thanks to our buddy Steve Pickering. Anyway, we're honored to have you in our midst. Next week, we're going to go and have the Sweetheart Replacement Mixer at Hotel Congress, so don't forget to sign up. Now, I guess it's time for that little toast and adjournment. So there's an old, this is probably appropriate, there's an old cowboy proverb that says, there never was a horse that couldn't be rode, and there never was a cowboy who couldn't be throwed. Here's a toast to both. We are adjourned.